Hello Resithrivers, welcome back to the channel. So I just thought before I move on from this topic, housing crisis in the UK, let me make this video so that at least we've covered the important basics. If after watching my last video, you've decided, you know what, I still want to get a mortgage in the UK, especially if you're a Zimbabwean, if you're an African immigrant, then this video is for you. So in this video, I'm talking about how to qualify for a mortgage in the UK, because let's face it, not many people can actually afford to pay cash for a home to say, okay, here's my $500,000, here's my 300,000 K, I want a house, and you have your papers signed and off you go. Not many people can do that. So the only realistic way to secure a home in the UK is by getting a mortgage, which will take you about 10, 15, 20, 25 years to actually pay it off. So anyway, like I said, in this video, I want to cover what you need to qualify for a mortgage in the UK if you're an immigrant. The first thing, and if you're an immigrant, this should be at the top of your list. The first thing you need is your visa status. Mortgage lenders in the UK are not going to give you a mortgage if your visa situation is not clear. So you need to have a valid visa to begin with, and you need to have settled status. Now, the most desirable status, of course, this one is a no-brainer. The most desirable is indefinite leave to remain. If you've got indefinite leave to remain in the UK, then your chances of getting a mortgage are significantly increased. Other visa statuses that are accepted if you're applying for a mortgage in the UK as an immigrant are, if you're on a skilled worker visa, that is acceptable. If you're on a spousal visa, if your spouse has got settlement status and you're on their visa, that is acceptable as well. Some other visa categories can be accepted, but like I said, if you've got indefinite leave to remain, that significantly increases your chances of getting a mortgage, because it shows that you're here on a long-term basis. You're not going to up and leave in the next 12 months, in the next 2 years, and so on, because mortgages are long-term commitments. Just to mention that the most common mortgage length in the UK is 25 years. That's like the most common one. But a person can take out a mortgage for 10 years, 15, 20, 25 years, even 40 years. So it all depends as well on the mortgage lender, your circumstances, your situation. This is why you need also to consider your age. If you're in your 50s and you're looking to take out a mortgage, then you must think about how long that is going to take you to pay it off, and by then, will you still be working? How old are you? So these are the things you ought to be considering before making these big decisions, because taking out a mortgage is a big decision. It's a commitment that you're making. The second thing that you need in the UK, and I mentioned this in my last video, is a good credit score. You need to work on your credit score. And I also mentioned that for some people who've recently relocated to the UK, they may not know about this. This is something that you need to familiarize yourself with. Because in the UK, if you are to take out a mortgage or a loan, a credit card, anything that requires financial commitment on your part, then whoever is lending you that money, that credit card, that loan, needs to know your credit score. They need to check to see that you're somebody they can rely on, because it's a major risk for them as well. So they need that reassurance, and one way is a good credit score. They need to know that you're somebody who is reliable when it comes to paying off your bills. Do you pay your rent on time? Do you pay your credit cards on time? Do you pay your water bill, your council tax bill, even other financial commitments? Do you pay on time? Or are you somebody who skips payments and so on? Because everything that you do in this country, all that information, all those transactions that you make, everything that you do is populated in such a way that it brings a clear picture as to what kind of person you are. So if at the moment your credit score is not the best, then there are things that you can do to improve it. One way you can improve your credit score, of course, I've already mentioned, pay your bills on time. Another thing that you can do as well is to register to vote. Another useful thing that you can do as well is to keep an eye on your credit score. For me, it took me a while to take that step to actually say, you know what, I need to register so that I can keep an eye on it. I need to know exactly what is going on, because I've been to the bank and they told me, oh, we can't give you this because your credit score is not great. So this is important, especially if you're considering taking out a mortgage in the future. Register online on platforms such as Experian. I use Experian myself to keep an eye on my credit score, because I have learned how important it is. Now, there is a free version of it. It only gives you like the basics, but if you want to know exactly what is going on, because remember, there are scammers out there, there are fraud cases you've heard about. one way that you can actually identify if someone is using your identity, if there's an account on your profile that you don't recognize, because scammers can steal your identity and then use your name, your date of birth, and so on to take out loans, credit cards in your name. And by the way, I'm going to link a video at the end of this one. I made a video a few months ago talking about how to manage debt in the UK. And in that video, I gave an example of myself, what I went through when my credit score was really bad. This is because ages ago, years ago, I didn't know about credit score. And I found myself in a messy situation where I was skipping some of my bills. They were not those important bills like council tax, water bill, and so on. But there were other things, other financial commitments that I wasn't meeting on time. I was ignoring certain things, thinking, okay, it's fine, I can always settle things later on. Not knowing or not realizing that actually it was hurting my credit score. So I would advise you to watch that video, because in that video, I go into detail as to what kind of things can actually hurt your credit score here in the UK. And I speak from experience because I like to use my experiences to educate others. It's the best way to learn, really. But if you can avoid some lessons, some hard lessons, then avoid them, because I learned the hard lessons so that you don't have to learn the same lessons. So that's the second thing that you need. The third requirement is to do with your employment, your source of income. Mortgage lenders will need to see if you can actually afford to pay that mortgage, because they are not going to give you that mortgage if you can't afford to pay. They need to see your employment history. They need to be satisfied that you are employed on a long-term basis, and they will need to see how much you have in terms of your salary. They will need to see your incomings and outgoings. They will need to see your pay slips or wage slips. They will need to see your bank statements. They will need to see your tax returns if you're self-employed, because mortgage lenders will need to be satisfied that you can actually meet your mortgage commitments, or you can actually pay your mortgage every month after you've fulfilled all your other financial obligations. They will need to know that. That is important, because usually mortgage lenders will lend you or will give you like 4 to 5 times your annual income. So that's the third requirement. You need to prove your employment and income. The next thing you need if you want to get a mortgage in the UK as an immigrant is deposit. Now this one is a major one. It's important. You need to have deposit. Now, I'm not a mortgage broker, I'm not an expert, but from my experience, I know usually, depending as well on the value of your property, they will ask for about 5 to 10% of the value of the property. So you will need a lump sum to pay towards your mortgage before they can give you that mortgage. And if you're a foreign national, if you're an immigrant, depending on the value of your property, depending on your situation, depending on the mortgage lender in the UK that you're approaching. I'm not a mortgage broker, I'm not an expert, but I'm thinking if you're an immigrant, if you're a foreign national, then you may be seen as high risk, because if you're on a visa, depending on the visa that you have, that's why I said in the beginning, if you've got indefinite leave to remain, then it significantly improves your chances. So if your visa is valid for, let's say, 12 months or 2 years, then you are a high risk. Let's call a thing, because who knows what's going to happen after those 2 years. So this is where I'm coming from with this. And depending on the property value, depending on the mortgage lender, then the percentage that you pay towards that mortgage may vary. So it is always worth double checking these things. These are things to consider if you want to take out a mortgage in the UK. And like I said in the previous video, things are changing. The situation is becoming dire. At the moment, we have a housing crisis in the UK, we have an immigration crisis, and so on. So I'm afraid it may mean that for immigrants, the requirements may be tighter, may be stricter. You might have to provide additional information. I mentioned this in my previous video. So it is always worth finding out where you stand, how to go about things. So in this video, I just wanted to provide this information. And before I finish this video, I just want to say that considering everything that I've mentioned in this video, the visa requirements, your income, your credit score, everything that I've said, it is important to keep your documentation in order. This is crucial. I cannot emphasize it enough. Make sure that you have your paperwork where you can easily find it, because I know how things go sometimes. When you want to find something, you cannot find it. So have a folder, have a file where you keep all your documentation, your bank statements, your pay slips, everything, your visas, I mean your passports and so on, your bank statements, your council tax statements, your water bill, everything. Keep them in one place and always make sure that all your documentation is up to date. It is important to have that, because when the time comes for you to apply for that mortgage, you will have all your documentation in one place. So yeah, this is what I had for you in this video. As always, I hope you found it useful. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.